In this second half of the video, we're going to look at the reports, see what you can do with them, see how playing with different parameters impacts the look and effectiveness of the report. I've also gone back to my workbench, thrown out my results, because I want us to start with the default parameters that TAMS provides. For better or worse, I actually think that the defaults could be better, and maybe those will change in the future. So I'm going to generate a results window. Again, this is a simple, unlimited search. And I'm going to open up this. I'm going to reduce my data a little bit, meaning I'm going to do a selection here of just those negative reasons for using fiction. And grab my comparison table. And here it is again. And I just want to show that the default is, again, across the top it's going to be codes, and down the side it's going to be a single column. For the data element, you have to scroll down. I had to scroll down a little because I have so many columns there. The data is the default thing. So we're going to be looking at the data by code in a single column. Let's generate that report. So you can see I've got a single column or single row that they just called all. I've got each of the codes across the top, and every single quote is sort of listed there with a little line separating it. Okay, I have to just say that I find this extremely ugly. Having it go long ways across the paper just doesn't really reveal a lot. And I know there's other problems with this, but let's just start by fixing that by switching the axis. I click this orientation option there, and I regenerate the report. And this is much better. It's much more viewable. It's much more scrollable. Having it go down the page just is a much more efficient thing. And the idea is that you can play with these things. I've got another problem, though. I've got quotes, but I have no idea whose quotes they are. It would be very helpful if I knew who was speaking, what the file was, at least, that I got these quotes from. And I have to say that in this report, or in this study, one file equals one research subject. So I just could grab here the name of the doc. I'm holding down the command key and I'm clicking on doc, and now we're going to get the data and the doc in that report. And at least that helps me locate that data. So you can see that this is much more useful. It would be much more useful if I knew how many codes of each type were there, and luckily that takes a single click of including a total. So I've clicked up here in my data elements that I want a total as well. I generate the report, and now I can see that I've got 10 example negatives. I've got 1 capacity negative. I've got 2 here, and I can see each individual one. But what if I would like to observe, let's see, these 4, and in their total context? That is, in the results table, I want to see all the columns. I want to be able to play with the padding. I can do that. I can just click the 4. My results table pops to the front, and just those 4 are now showing. And what's more is I can now add the padding, so I can see a little bit more information than I did before. And of course, you can always use this number to really increase what the context is of the quote you're seeing. Or I could double click to get back to the source document. So I'm going to go back to my selection. I just hit the back arrow up here. Come back here. And I want to save this. This is kind of a nice report. I don't think it's something I would put in my dissertation as a result in any sense. But for my own analytic purposes, this might be very helpful. So I'm going to open in a new window. And there it is, that same report. It's still blue, which means it's still hot linked to the data. And I'm just going to kind of put it there on the side for the moment. All right, so that's the first report. I'm going to come back here, and I want to see what other things I could put rather than the raw data. It would be nice if I could just put a count of the data, like the codes in the data here, maybe by doc. So what I'm going to do is just select doc, do count only. Let's generate that report. All right, I want to do one other thing. Before I get to count only, let's just show you what it's generating. So here's the code, here's the file that code appeared in, and the count. And you can see here, I've got, for my example negatives, I've got 2 from Cindy and 1 from Sam and 3 from Erica, etc. To get up to 10. Well, that's a lot of redundancy to get to that 10. So what I can do is if I come back to settings, rather than the do not group, I could pick group. And what that's going to generate is that same thing, except for it's gotten rid of the extras. So this is a way of answering the question, how many files are there, rather than how many individual codes. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But it's still saying that there's 10 here, because there are 10 quotes, and all that the data comparison table does in most cases is just start at whatever the current selection is and move to the bottom and count things. So I'm going to come back here, and I have this option of not counting duplicates in the total. So when Amy gets counted, has 3 quotes, but all I'm listing is Amy in that table. Here, I'll show you. I don't have the separate quotes here. I have like just the file name. So Amy might appear 3 times if I do not group. I pick do not group. Or I've got Cindy twice. I've got Erica 3 times. So I'm going to group it. That gets rid of the redundancy there. But I need to get rid of the redundancy in the total as well. And now I've got 6. And yes, I've got 6 there. And you can see I've got 6 here too. Great. So this is a very consistent table. Let's go back. I want to see what my other options are. I've got a group and subcount. Okay. So if I do that one, what that gives me is it tells me here's Amy. She's one of the files, and there are 2 instances there. Notice that this is 6 still, because there's only 6 things here, even though if we were to count them individually, we'd get 10. But you can count to 10 if you count each row's number there. What if I want these to be consistent? What I can do is just click this, don't count duplicates. This don't count duplicates refers to the data elements rather than the total. That's why it says don't count duplicates in total. This is don't count duplicates in the table. Now everyone just gets a 1 because it's not counting the duplicates. There may be 3 Amy's, but it's only showing 1. So it's a little weird, like why would you do that? You'd probably drop the subcount. There, I got rid of the subcount, and now this is kind of a nicer looking table. Or you could go the other way and do only the count. Now, I'm going to count my duplicates for this first time, and you'll see I get 10. If I don't count duplicates, just click don't count duplicates, I get 6. Now this is a silly looking table too because we've got 6 and 6. We can get rid of that include total, and there you go. So that's a nice walkthrough of sort of the initial thing. We're going to do 2 more things. I want to align this better. I don't like it centered there. That's on the left side. it's the side, and I'm going to make it left justified. We could try right justified too. See what you like better. I feel like that's a nicer looking table. I'm going to open that up in a window. I now have 2 of my data comparison reports available to me. I know that kind of disappears. We will work on that. The new version of WebKit is a little difficult to work with in terms of boundaries and the like. If I want to see my 4 examples of negative about reading, that is, that these are people who thought it was too difficult for her high school students to read science fiction, I just click those. But wait a second, it gave me 6 and there's only 4. Well, there's 4 files it came from. Remember what we did to generate this. And 6 examples total. So you get all 6 examples even though the total here is 4, which is, I think, what you'd want. I'm going to get rid of this and do one little thing and reopen it up again. I'm going to give this report a title. Files using the given code. Let's generate that report, open that in a window. And that's slightly more useful because I know what the heck those numbers are. Those are not codes. Those are instances of a use of a code, but of files. For my next example, I've gotten rid of my data comparison table and have gone back to my database. You can see those other data comparison tables I made here in the background. But I want all my data. Remember, the data comparison table only uses the data we've seen. We selected negative. I want everyone, so I'm going to select all, clean up that selection on the side so I don't get confused, and come back to my data comparison table. What I'm going to do as a kind of follow-up is look at things other than codes to start with. I am going to compare down the side of the report, code sets. And I've got a bunch of code sets defined. One of those code sets are codes that deal with negative reasons, and another code set for dealing with positive reasons. And what I'd like to know is, I'd like to look at those negative and positive reasons across, those are going down, but across the top, I want my people I'm interviewing. And so I've picked doc across the top. So X is doc, code set is negative reason, ... It's just kind of giving you a hint there of what's going on. Okay, so I've got doc across the top, code sets there. I've decided to pick code. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm kind of clearing the palette here. Clearing the title I had before. This is subjects by pos and negative reasons. So let's just generate that report and then we'll play with it. All right, so, wait a second, I want to do this to start with. So here we have a report. We've got positive reasons and negative reasons. I've got each of my subjects across the top, and then just a list of the codes that they use there, including, again, this is going through my data, row by row, and every time a row falls into either the negative reason code set or the positive reason code set, it adds it to the report. And as a result, we get, again, redundancy. We've got 2 reads here. I've got 2 reads over here. Minimally, it would be better to group in subcount. So let's generate that to start with. So now it's just a clean list of the codes that each subject uses. Obviously, it would be nice to have counts on those. So let's go down a little bit further and do the subcount. So there you go. I can see that Amy had 2 negative reasons here, 2 positive reasons for learning styles there. But okay, this is kind of a difficult report to use, again, because it's more horizontal than negative, vertical. So let's swap axes, regenerate the report, and there you go. You can see everything much sort of more cleanly in this side by side. And again, if I wanted to see these two reasons, all I need to do is click, and there are the two reasons. All right, but this is okay, but we can do better. Let's get the totals on the side here. Though what would it even mean in that case? Let's just see what it does. Basically, it's telling me that I have 10 total positive and negative reasons for Brenda. So that's not that useful as a number. This may be more useful as a way of measuring, considering these things. So let's get rid of that. And our next report is going to be a straightforward count. So I'm going to get rid of that, and instead I'm going to come to count only. And let's generate that report and see what it does. All right. So now I can see Amy has 5 positive reasons, 9 positive reasons and 5 negative reasons. Cindy has 17 positive, I should say, instances and 4 negative instances because, again, there may be redundancy here. And remember, what is that redundancy in? It's in codes. Let's get rid of the redundancy. If I regenerate that, I can see that even though that there are only 4 particular codes that Amy used that were negative and 6 that were positive. And now it may make sense to throw in the total, not including the redundancy, because then I can see, oh yeah, there's duplicates in there. Even though there are 4 codes that she used and 6 positive codes that she used, there are 14 instances total of the two. And that it's not a number I'd report because it takes too much explaining to understand why 4 plus 6 equals 14. But it may be very useful for me as I'm analyzing data. And remember, the nice thing about this report is that it can be used to get into your data. I can see the 14 positive and negative instances just by clicking on the number 14. And that pulls them up here. So before I wrap up, I just want to do one other report to talk about printing these things, because it's through printing that you'll probably include things as reports into your data. So I'm just going to run the old simple unlimited search. I get this. I've got all my data there. I'm running my compare data report. I want a code count. I've got codes across, and Y is a single column going down. I'm going to switch axes. I'm going to give it a title called total count. By the way, it is not accepted total count yet as the title. I have to somehow click on something else for it to take. I just want the count. Yeah, count duplicates, and let's use codes as the thing it counts in this report. I'm going to give it a title, code count in my data. Let's generate that. Oh, click off of that too. Generate that data. Boom. Code count in my data. Beautiful. I might format that differently, make it left or right justified. But this is a great report that I could see putting definitely into a paper or into a dissertation. TAMS isn't that great on printing stuff, however. I urge you to go to your browser. I'm not going to do it because I've got 1,000 tabs open. But from your browser, you have all sorts of printing options that I don't provide. You can also copy and paste from a browser, probably from these windows too, into Excel and then into Word, or into some spreadsheet and then into Word, into your word processor, and use that to also help format this. Remember, this is HTML. This is basically a web page that you're looking at, even though it's not. It's just on your machine. And at least Microsoft Word, I'm not sure about numbers and pages, is very handy at converting HTML into Word format. So we've gone over all the different options here. We've from single column to getting to your other context variables through other column, through your various sets you have, thinking about these things as a horizontal and vertical axis that you can switch back and forth, and then throwing in either counts for more quantitative data or qualitative data like the code, like the quotes themselves into that table. You can see the power and flexibility of this. I hope you found this helpful, and I am sure that there will be more videos forthcoming. Good luck with your data.